A nurse killed over 400 patients. His name was Charles Edmund Cullen. For 16 years, Cullen worked in hospitals across New Jersey. He confessed to murdering numerous people during this time. His method was chillingly simple, injecting lethal doses of medication. He preyed on the vulnerable, particularly those in intensive care. What's most shocking is that his actions went unnoticed for years. Evidence shows he continued to work despite being fired from multiple positions. Cullen admitted to 13 murders. He hinted the true number could be much higher. Law enforcement estimated he may have harmed over 1,000 individuals. His case is a dark stain on the healthcare system. It raises serious questions about hospital safety and oversight. How could this happen? Cullen's story is a terrifying reminder of the potential for evil lurking beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary lives. It forces us to confront the vulnerability of patients. It exposes the terrifying consequences of inadequate safeguards in healthcare. His crimes sent shockwaves through the nation. The victims' families were left devastated. The healthcare system grappled with its failures. Charles Cullen's early life offered glimpses into the darkness that would consume him. Born in West Orange, New Jersey, Cullen was the youngest of 8 children. His childhood was troubled, marked by the death of his father when he was just an infant. He struggled to cope with the loss. His home life was far from stable. Cullen grappled with mental health issues from a young age. He even attempted suicide multiple times. Despite his troubles, Cullen pursued a career in nursing. He graduated from Mountainside Hospital School of Nursing in 1987. He began working at St. Barnabas Medical Center in Livingston, New Jersey, that same year. It was here that Cullen's pattern of killing began. His quiet demeanor and dedication to his work masked a sinister secret. Cullen was, in fact, a wolf in sheep's clothing. He used his access to medications to satisfy a dark impulse. His actions would have devastating consequences for countless innocent lives. Charles Cullen's weapon of choice was medication. He understood the power these substances held. He knew how to manipulate them to deadly effect. His method was cold and calculated. He would typically target patients who were already critically ill. Their deaths, he reasoned, would be less likely to arouse suspicion. Cullen's preferred medications included digoxin, insulin, and epinephrine. These drugs, often used in life-saving treatments, became instruments of death in his hands. Digoxin, a heart medication, was his most frequent choice. Overdoses could cause fatal heart arrhythmias. Insulin, crucial for regulating blood sugar, could induce deadly comas in excessive amounts. Epinephrine, a hormone used to treat allergic reactions and cardiac arrest, could be equally lethal when misused. Cullen's knowledge of these drugs and their effects allowed him to operate with chilling precision. He carefully calculated dosages, ensuring his victims received lethal amounts while minimizing the risk of detection. His actions were a betrayal of the trust placed in him as a healthcare professional. The full extent of Charles Cullen's crimes may never be known. He confessed to killing 40 patients. However, investigators believe the true number could be much higher. Some estimates suggest he may have been responsible for as many as 400 deaths. Cullen's victims were often elderly or already critically ill. They were individuals who, in his mind, were already nearing the end of their lives. He saw himself as an angel of mercy, relieving their suffering. In reality, his actions were those of a cold-blooded killer. Over his 16-year career, Cullen worked at 9 hospitals and 1 nursing home. His pattern was consistent. He would gain employment at a facility, begin killing patients, and then move on when suspicions arose. He left a trail of death and despair in his wake. Each hospital he worked at became another hunting ground, another opportunity to satisfy his twisted desires. His ability to move from one facility to another undetected highlights the systemic failures that allowed his killing spree to continue for so long. Section 5. Evading detection, a pattern of deception. How did Charles Cullen manage to evade detection for so long? The answer is a complex mix of cunning, manipulation, and institutional failings. Cullen was a master manipulator. He was skilled at blending in, appearing as a dedicated and compassionate nurse. He carefully cultivated this image, all the while carrying out his deadly deeds in secret. Cullen was also adept at covering his tracks. He would often tamper with medical records, making it difficult to trace the cause of death back to him. He would alter dosages, falsify entries, and even dispose of evidence. His actions were calculated to deflect suspicion. Cullen's frequent job changes also helped him stay one step ahead of authorities. Each time he moved to a new hospital, he was essentially starting with a clean slate. His past was often unknown or overlooked. This allowed him to continue his killing spree unchecked. Section 6. Systemic failures, hospitals and oversight. While Charles Cullen's cunning and deception played a role in his ability to evade detection, it was the systemic failures within the healthcare system that truly allowed his killing spree to continue for so long. Hospitals focused on avoiding scandal and protecting their reputations often failed to adequately investigate suspicious deaths. There was a culture of silence, a reluctance to confront the possibility that one of their own could be responsible for such horrific acts. Background checks were often lax. Hospitals were more concerned with filling staffing shortages than with thoroughly vetting potential employees. This lack of due diligence allowed Cullen to move from one facility to another with ease, his past crimes often going unnoticed. The lack of communication between hospitals was another major factor. There was no centralized system for tracking disciplinary actions against nurses. This meant that when Cullen was fired from one hospital for suspicious behavior, there was nothing to prevent him from simply getting a job at another facility. Section 7. Inside the mind of a killer. What drove Charles Cullen to commit such heinous acts? Was it mental illness, a thirst for power, or a twisted sense of compassion? The answers remain elusive, shrouded in the complexities of the human psyche. Some experts believe Cullen suffered from Munchausen syndrome by proxy, a mental disorder in which individuals fabricate or exaggerate the illness of another person, typically someone in their care, in order to gain attention or sympathy. This theory suggests Cullen may have been motivated by a desire to be seen as a savior, even as he was taking lives. Others speculate that Cullen was driven by a deep-seated anger and resentment towards authority figures, which he projected onto his patients. His troubled childhood, marked by loss and instability, may have contributed to his psychological turmoil. It is also possible that Cullen derived a perverse sense of power from his ability to control life and death. The act of killing, for him, may have been a way to exert control over a world that he felt had always controlled him. Section 8. Ripple effects, families, healthcare and fear. The impact of Charles Cullen's crimes extended far beyond the victims themselves. Families were left shattered, struggling to cope with the loss of loved ones and the horrific circumstances surrounding their deaths. The realization that their loved ones had been murdered by someone entrusted with their care only compounded their grief and anger. The healthcare system was shaken to its core. Cullen's case exposed the vulnerabilities within hospitals and the terrifying consequences of inadequate oversight. The public's trust in healthcare professionals was eroded. Cullen's crimes also had a profound impact on nurses and other healthcare workers. They faced increased scrutiny and suspicion. Their profession, once synonymous with care and compassion, was now tainted by the actions of one of their own. Section 9. Legacy of a killer. Reforms and lasting impacts. Charles Cullen's case served as a wake-up call for the healthcare industry. It forced hospitals to confront their shortcomings and implement reforms to prevent similar tragedies from occurring in the future. One of the most significant changes was the implementation of stricter background checks for healthcare workers. Hospitals now routinely conduct more thorough screenings of potential employees, including checking for any history of disciplinary action or criminal behavior. Another major change was the establishment of anonymous reporting systems for healthcare workers to report suspicious behavior without fear of retribution. This has created a culture of accountability and transparency within hospitals. Cullen's case also led to the passage of Cullen's Law in several states. This law provides legal immunity to hospitals that report suspicious behaviour by healthcare workers to law enforcement. This encourages hospitals to prioritise patient safety over protecting their reputations. Charles Cullen's legacy is a complex one, marked by both tragedy and a push for positive change. His crimes exposed the dark underbelly of the healthcare system. However, they also sparked reforms aimed at preventing such horrors from happening again. The scars of his actions will likely remain for years to come, a haunting reminder of the importance of vigilance, accountability, and the unwavering pursuit of justice.